these events and I do it, and like, you know, we just had a good conversation at the back. Like, there's a lot of stuff that arises and that we actually speak about that a lot of you are actually thinking about, or there's things that you want to know, or there's questions that you might have. So like what I want to do before we dive back into this, based on what you've heard already and kind of what we've already gone through, has anyone got any like burning questions that they may not have asked or that they may be afraid to ask? Like, I want to get to a point with this where these events, like someone I spoke with earlier on said that they're fearful of coming to these events. They don't like coming to new events. They don't like going to new places, or they don't like being around randoms, which is, you know, I get that. But I want to get to a point with this where these types of events also break down certain fears that you've got, certain worries. So if you've never spoken in front of a group more than 3 or 4 people, your mates, like if anyone's got any questions or things that they want to ask, and then what I can do then is I'll bank that and I'll segue some of it into some other content as well. So is there anything anyone's got any burning questions on before I dive in? If not, a lot of this is going to be mindset related, subconscious mind training, and also going into like goals, affirmations, and almost rewiring how you think, how you speak, how you talk to yourself. So has anyone got anything that they want to ask before we dive in?
Yeah.
Fire away.
One thing I've always struggled with the gold trades we get
Yep.
is the risk to reward seems
Yep.
much bigger than everything
Correct.
we see about
Yeah.
trading.
Yeah, from a signals perspective, how I think of it there is a lot of people aren't like you guys in here that want to actually learn. They want to just have the dopamine hit, take the trades, and they know long term they're going to lose their money because eventually they will over leverage, they'll over trade, they'll over gamble. So when you look at the wording that we were using before, it was close trade at TP1. So what are all you going to do? Right? And then 30 seconds later, it's like, oh, trades at 50 pips profit. Who's still in? And you're like, none of us. It's like, yeah, we all out because you told us to. So what we want to get to a point of doing, and that's why that there segments into a good stuff, because let's say if you're trading at 0.01, for example, if that trade does 30 pips and you close, you've made £3. Yes, if it goes and does it another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, you're going to make £21, £24, so on and so on. If you keep that risk at the same lot size consistently, over time, statistically, you will win. Like, even if you look at last week, we had, and this is again, basing it on us not always going to TP4. The risk to reward, eventually, I want to train you guys where I was speaking about this at the back, where eventually you're used to and you're seeing structure points. So when a trade idea gets sent out, we're not always going to aim for TP5, TP6, because there are TPs in place to go for like 300 to 500 pips. So from a risk to reward perspective, I do it on my trades, but I know that sometimes we might have an 80 pip stop loss and a 30 pip TP1. So if you're doing that and you have take profit 1, take profit 2, take profit 3, TP1, 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 loss, you're negative. You do it again, you do it again, you do it again, you're now in a loss again. So at 0.01, it's very difficult to do this because you can't partially close trades. So if you're trading with a little bit of a higher amount on your account, what you can eventually do with that is, when we get to TP1, close partials. So when let's say I'm trading with 4.00, right? So that's £40 per pip. When it gets to TP1, I will go in and I will modify it and I'll close 1.00. So I'm banking 30 pips at £10 a go, so I bank £300. Then when it gets to TP2, I'll close off again another 1.00, bank another one. So then I'm still running with 2.00 to go to TP3, to go to TP4. So like then when you get that mindset of that and you're closing your trades, the risk to reward then becomes what it should be. Because then you're getting a 150, 200, 300 pip move and it does become a 3-to-1. The only difference is you've got to have the discipline then to hold that. So this comes down to, number one, our communication, how we talk about it, how we advise you, if you will, to close that trade. Advise is the wrong word, take that out. Past profits do not guarantee future results. Financial advisor, thank you very much, adios. So when you do that 80 pip stop loss, once it runs, because you guys have seen how gold moves, it can do 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000 pips whilst you've been to make a cup of tea, literally. So if you know that that happens, having your take profit, all of it at TP1, you're almost shooting yourself in the foot. So when you look at a chart and you get used to seeing this, and again, it comes down to, I know some of you are working, you're busy, you don't have time to go up and mark up TradingView and this, that, and the other. But if you do the TradingView analysis over a weekend, this is what I do. Market shuts at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. I then go onto the charts and I'll look and I'll be like, delete everything off. And I will then mark up support resistance zones based off of the last week. So then when a trade analysis gets sent out on Sunday or Sunday night or Monday morning, and you can see, right, we're in a buy position here, right, just put your stop losses below the low. So what I would do is try that on a small account. Try with 100 quid. Just get used to putting your stops below the low, which again, I'll be teaching you guys how to do. So then from a risk to reward perspective, eventually, when you're hitting TP3s, TP4s, TP3s, TP4s, it's there for the long term. Because a lot of people, they're closing out at TP1, TP2, and they're banking money, which is great, but then they're getting stung a further down the line. And I see it a lot with guys, obviously, because I see the trades that come through on the back end. When you're winning, you almost build up that kind of bulletproof resistance, if you will. And you might trade at 0.02, 0.03. You have 3 or 4 really good trades, and you think, man, look at that move. This has got TP 94 on it. And you put a 1 standard lot on, and that's the trade that pillages your account. So for me, at the beginning, when you're on your journey, pick a lot size, and just stay disciplined with that, because then the emotion that comes to it, and you have the TP2s, the TP3s. I like trading at 0.04 as a minimum on a £500 account. 0.01 for every £100. So if you know you've got 400 quid in there, 0.04 for example. So then when it goes to TP1, you can close off partials. So a lot of people are thinking, well, Bradley, what if I set it at TP1? I've always got to be on my phone. I've always got to be on this. Like, you don't. Aim for TP, like put your take profit as take profit 4, because you guys have seen how we guide you along the way. Plus 30, plus 50, plus 70, plus 80, plus 90, and so on like that. So if you can aim for TP3 as a minimum, you know then it's 280 pips, 300 pips take profit. That is your 3 to 1. Take partials along the way. Unless you get to a point where emotion's kicking in, close the trade. Because, go on, sorry.
You can't set partial close, can you?
No. But this is where eventually, like when you're using, this for me is dangerous to trade on. Like, how many of you got it in your pocket right now? How many of you got your laptop on you? Right? Not many people are carrying the laptop around just like this to like place trades with. Right? So, yeah. They'll be looking like, man, she's deep in this. But if you can get to a point with this where you remove, because all this is designed to do is to keep us fixated on shit that we don't actually care about. Likes, comments, engagements, other bullshit on social media. So I switched away, and this is when I was probably most profitable in trading. I switched away from using my phone. And I had a rule that if I was in front of my computer and a trade came through, I would place it on WebTrader. So WebTrader is the back end of Vantage, if you will. So it's like their MetaTrader 4, but on desktop, it looks like it's on Windows 95 still. But again, you can drag it. You drag your stop loss. You can drag your take profit. So then that way, now you can do that on MetaTrader 5 as well. But you can get to a point with this where eventually you can set trailing stop losses. You can set, take profit zones and stuff like that. So if you know you've got take profit 4 and the trade moves 100 pips and you've got a trailing stop loss, which I'm going to teach in the boot camp, is so that trade does a 200 pip move and you're not at your phone. If it drops 20 pips, takes you out the trade. So that for me is how I used to trade, because I only used to trade gold, used to trade Bitcoin, and I used to trade Dow Jones after I blew my account, because I realized how volatile it was. Anything with volatility, I'll trade. I don't want to trade steady Eddie Swiss franc pairs that have got no money going into them. So from a risk to reward perspective, that's a great question, because a lot of you will be closing at TP1 because you're getting told to. So like we've got him to reword the wording, so because you see on your phone like let's say now, for example, like I can see.
Would he pay you to set 4 trades then? Or
Yeah, in
was it
theory you
split
could.
between
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
side you'd play with?
You could do, yeah.
So if you
0.01, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01.
set your take profits
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So the issue with your phone is it only shows you the first line. So if you're sat there working away and you see close at TP1, you're going to go onto your MetaTrader 4. You're not even going to open that trade. You open the trade, you close it. Then you read down close partials and you're like, fuck. I'm already out of the trade. Like, I know a lot of you that's happening to because you're looking at me like, So like all it is just rewording from our side. But again, like this is where I appreciate from my side a lot of feedback. And that's why I ask for people to say things to me, because when I'm asking stuff, I know Kirsten does, like I wake up on a morning, I'm like this. 1 minute and 37 voice note. 2 times speed. Last night he sent out 3 trades and they'd all hit stop loss back to back. I'm like,
They're asking about stop loss. When he says move your stop loss to entry,
Yeah.
you don't do that, do you?
No.
You-
Okay, I'm going to get this on record. I hate, with a passion, stop loss to entry. Because for me, if I'm going to risk into a business, this is how my brain thinks. If I'm risking into a business and I'm willing to put money into it because I believe in it, but then on the other hand, I'm like, actually, give me my money back. I don't want to play that game. I do not like stop loss to entry because it ruins your emotions. The trade goes up, you think, man, stop loss to entry, it comes down, and because of spread and because of the trade that you entered, you end up losing money. It's like marginal, might be like 4 pence, but it still pisses you off. And then guess what happens? It runs 100 pips. So then guess what you're all doing? Looking for the next trade. And then you're like, oh, great, it drops 40 pips, I'm going to enter again. Then it drops to stop loss. You end up with 180 pip stop loss because we've done stop loss to entry. For me personally, I say this every morning, every afternoon, every evening to the trader, no more stop loss to entry. And he's like, this is my style of trading. I'm like, well, it's wrong. Because, and I'm not here to, like, he makes, like, from a trading perspective, his results, like, I've watched this guy for nearly 5 years. I didn't know his name or who he was, his background and stuff prior to this. And when I saw the results he was getting, then once he started doing stop loss to entry, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to do this. Because statistically, the trades play out. So once you then see the results go into TP3, TP4, TP5, yet you're out at break even minus 19 pence, you're like, well, that's a waste of time. So for me, I'm the type of person, if I commit to something, I'm in. If it goes to stop loss, I knew the risk. If it hits take profit, I knew the risk. So then that way then, from a mindset perspective, I'm never in a yo-yo land, and I'm not checking my phone every couple of minutes because we've all got busy lives. The last thing we want to be doing is checking his phone every couple of seconds because we've moved it to stop loss. And then guess what happens? It starts to come close, and you all get itchy bum, tight bum, like, oh, it's going to stop. It's going to stop me out. You adjust your stop loss again. Stop loss gets adjusted. Stop loss gets, before you know it, your stop loss is below where it initially entered, and you're in never, never land thinking, what have I done? You've put buys on, you've got sells on, your account's gone, you're fucked. So like this here is a key example of like just trusting the process. So for me, when I do things, it's like going to Marbella, for example. And I just shared this story a little bit at the back there. I was looking at going to Ibiza. That was my first plan. Went there 6 or 7 times to try and find something. Trusted my gut that it was going to be the right way, but I went there for the wrong reasons. Like, this might sound really weird with a group of people who follow and stuff like that, but from a loneliness perspective, I had no one around me. So I used to go and chase friendships and networks in Ibiza. What were they all doing? Partying. So guess where Brad ended up? Every party. Because I wanted more friends. Right? So then I'd go there, I'd have a 3-week splurge, come back, 3 weeks again, come back. Went there on the last time to buy a property. And 3 or 4 days in, I was like, yeah, this feels great. I was checking out all the locals. I'd been to view a few properties. I was like, this is sick. 5th night, got attacked. Broke my hand, lost my eyesight, lost my watch. So then When I came back, I had my operation on my hand. That for me, whenever I look at this now, it's for me just say trust my gut. So whenever I'm doing something, when I made the move to Marbella, I was like, only good things can happen because I'm putting myself around the right people. So when I relate that to that, it's trading based for me. If I'm going to go into a trade, I'm going to trust it. If it's based on, if the guys have got previous results that are getting 85, 95% success rate, all we need to do is have that, like a bit of a winning edge. So if we know now based off support resistance, break and retest, imbalance zones, we know the risk to rewards we can get. All it takes is for you guys a little bit of learning time. Like there's a few guys in here who've been and they've done other things that they've done that they've spent big money on. Oh, where's Ben? How much did you say you spent on your thing that you did? 50K. Right? So like for me, if I can teach this for free, give this all out for free, and you might be thinking, well, Bradley, how do you make your money? The broker's a sponsor. They pay in the back end. I'm not taking money out of anyone's pockets. I'm not charging you a monthly fee. Because then that way, then for people to be able to come into this with a £500 account, if I charge you 100 quid a month, what have you got to get per month? 20%. So for you to be able to earn 20% profit on your account just to pay me, it's not right. So then that's why we set everything up for free. That's why today costs nothing. So there's no excuse for people to come. The snow may have fucked me a little bit. But there's still a good amount of you here. Like, yeah, like wherever, I want to get to a point where this is happening all over the place. And I was saying before, when I built Organo, there was 18,000 people. I could go to any city, any day, any night, any afternoon, and there'd be groups of 40, 50, 60 people sat drinking that coffee. Because if you build pockets of communities and you can all learn and grow with each other, that way then, when I'm not here, when things aren't building, you guys can still do these. You can still jump on the calls, you can still do stuff. So when you start to look at the trading perspective, if you go into it wholeheartedly like, yeah, this is going to work, and you commit to it, you'll get the results out of it that you deserve. Yes, the stop losses, sometimes they're a little bit too big. I dislike that personally, but I know, based off my own strategy, my own trading, I know how to mitigate the risk a little bit with that. So that's why I want to host these events more, is to teach you guys who care about that, because unfortunately there's Telegram groups with 20, 30, 40, 100,000 people in that are there for that dopamine hit to be pressing buys and sells. Like we get messages every single day saying, when's another trade? I'm like, the trade's just hit take profit 4 minutes ago. I need another one. It's like, all right, okay, well, just go do it yourself. But there's always that feeling of a dopamine hit because there's energy and emotion behind that instead of trading with discipline. So to answer your question, a bit of a long, convoluted way of getting there, but the risk to reward that we're going to do is going to start to slowly edge out, get to a point where that's 30, 40, 50 pips, and then your take profit zones will be 50, 150, 300, so on. So your risk to rewards will start to get better. But again, if I can implement this and start doing the sessions again, that's something that I definitely want to do. So when we go back to mindset a little bit, sorry, by the way, has anyone got any more questions?
Yeah, I'm just going to
Go
say,
on.
when you mark your charts up on a Friday,
Yeah.
do you do it on the daily?
So I do a top-down analysis. So I'll start off, I don't like mainly the weekly and the monthly, I don't really touch. I'll go daily, do what I just did there, go into 4 hour, go into 1 hour, go into 15 minutes. Anything less than 15 minutes sometimes can be a bit noisy. There's a lot of, especially on gold, there's a lot happening on the 1 minute time frames. So you can get a little bit zoned in. So you miss what happens with the bigger picture. So again, you can jump onto the charts, do a top-down analysis, daily, 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. And then what I'm going to teach as part of the boot camp is having like multiple confluences to take the trade. So eventually getting you guys to a point where you can take your own trades based off what you know. So if it's on an uptrend, has it done this? Yes, right, that's 1 point. Has it done this? Yep, that's 2 points. Has it done this? Yep, that's 3 points. So eventually you'll start to build up like a repertoire, might be the wrong word, but you'll start to build something up where if it hasn't got a 4 point trade, you don't take it. And that might be even from trade ideas as well. Yeah, because I want to eventually teach people to be traders. And sometimes what happens is when you do that, their ego and their emotion kicks in too much that they want to become the trader. So I've done this where I was with IM days, and I was doing this I was doing trading every single day. I do calls on a morning, every morning. I do London Open, US Open, and I do Asia Open every day. I do Mindset Mondays, Wealth Wednesdays. I think we did Thirsty Thursdays for a while at one point where we all just got pissed up on a chart together. It was quite cool, that one. We used to do Weekend Warriors, Saturdays where we used to talk about mindset, every week. Like Ben was just talking about at the back where we used to do events night in, night out, day in, day out. But then eventually that person who's receiving it doesn't want to receive anymore. They want to be the leader. So then you end up with them teaching their discipline and mindset, which isn't making them any money. And they haven't got the right thing. So that's one thing that I always wanted to stay away from in this game, was being what I'm doing now. Because I don't like coaching around trading, because you can go away and implement it, and then you're like, well, Brad taught me this. Versus, like, all I'm doing now is I'm watching content, re-spitting it verbatim with just my flair. That's all I did with my Bob Proctor stuff. I launched a mindset course. We're charging $4,800 for that. I used to watch Bob Proctor. Turn the camera on. Hi guys, you're right. Bradley Marchant here. Appreciate you all for turning up, yada, yada, yada. And I'd sell it for $5,000. But it was just me watching his 30-minute video, re-spitting it into 15 minutes because I couldn't remember it all, and making money from it. So like with this, I don't want to be the person who's always doing that, but I want to do these events to teach the skill set and the strategy to a basic enough level, because that's what got me to quit my job. I wasn't doing in-depth analysis and working out the molecular structure of a pip and why it moves and how it does and how much money needs to go in to move $1 million in the market to get one pip. You don't need to know that. So once you can go into this and you understand that poor mindset, like from your guys' perspective, like what do you think having a negative mindset or a poor mindset in trading, what does it result in from your guys? Losses, right? Anything else? Because it doesn't just stop with trading. You have a loss, bad moods, anger, health, everything. So when you understand, like with this, if you're doing the stuff that, like if you went to a doctor and they said, well, this is the reason why you're doing all of this, and you went, this is why you got like this. Sometimes it needs the health scare for people to have a little bit of a reality check on how they are with their lives. Like how I was in Ibiza, that was it. It's like, you're going to die if you keep on like this. And I'm not saying I was a raging alcoholic or anything like that, but I loved to party, right? That was it. So if you can understand with this that the poor mindset goes into further parts of you, you'll then become that. And that's what I'm going to teach about in this as well, is like everything that you're doing as a daily action is a reason why you are how you are. So if we know that emotional trading leads to overtrading, revenge trading, exiting winners too early, letting losers run too long, fear and greed outclouds your judgment, lack of discipline, which causes inconsistent results. Because if you see the results getting 75, 80, 85% success rate, yes, it's a success rate. But at the end of a week, the pip rate is still up, which means nothing if you're not in them. You might have only traded Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, had loss, but yet on Thursday, Friday, we had 400 pips. So you're seeing a win rate at the end of a week. And again, like that's why I like sharing this, because I'm a normal human being. I look at the results that people are getting, and I'm like, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be having this amount of losses. We shouldn't be having this amount of risk. We shouldn't be having this. So I would rather then implement that with you guys, and that's what you're going to see within the community. You're going to see tighter stop losses. You're going to see better risk to reward. You're going to see things to happen, but it has to happen. How do I word this properly? It can't happen all at once, because if I truly spoke, like she sees me like this, if we have 3 stop losses back to back, if that guy lived next door to me, I'd probably do nothing, right? But I know how I think when we have losses. So I know that if I'm thinking like that, then you guys are as well. And we were just talking about there how it's very, very easy to get into 64 different Telegram groups. And you're seeing result, win. And then you have a few losses over here. It's very easy to confuse yourself, get distracted, and start looking for other ways, other analysis. But like for me, I always like to say mind my own business. I will mind my own business, and I will mind where I am, and and I'll focus on me. Because if you start to look at what other people are doing, and this is why sometimes group chats, most of you know I despise group chats, just to let you all know, because there's a lot of noise coming in from people who aren't doing much. Like you'll hear a group chat popping off, and it's the same 2 or 3 people that have got no money. They don't really do much with the general day-to-day lives, and they're inputting their stuff in there to get reactions, and then you end up in a bad mood. So that's why the chats are always one way that we do. Because then that way then, yeah, that's it. Chats are always one way, so that there's never any, because if we had an open group chat, fuck, you know, I've seen some of your guys' group chats. Fucking dickhead, I've seen them.
You get banned out of my chat if you start.
That's it. So it's having that fixed mentality of when you start to discipline yourselves, and this is where for me, like going back into, like now we've just moved to a new place in Marbella, like it's walking distance back to the sea, which is what we wanted. Being able to go and do that every day was part of my daily discipline. I'm not saying I'm going to go into the gym every day, but I can get a little bit of exercise in. I can get the free things that get me flowing in my brain is what's going to get me to a point where I can trade a lot more effectively. So from a discipline standpoint, that just isn't just trading. That's all areas of your life. And I started to look 2011, 2012, what I was doing on a day-to-day basis that was getting me the results that I was getting. Now, it's a completely different ballgame. Like the stuff that has happened in the last 13 or 14 months blows my brain. It's literally stuff that I've had written down since 2012, 2013, where I was writing that day in, day out, didn't know how it was going to be possible, didn't know how I was going to do it, like getting the podcast studio, going into doing the stuff with the film festival, like it's weird, but it's not at the same time because I see and read it every single day, write it every night. So if we're building a resilient trading mindset, you need to develop self-awareness real quick. You need to understand them emotional triggers. So like, what are some of the things in here that triggers you guys? Like, what's the trigger? Some of you might not dare say stuff. Stopped out entry. Perfect one. Stopped out more than one. Revenge trading, yeah. I agree.
That's the thing that really, I mean, you get stop losses and different things, I get that.
Yeah.
Signals, but when he's having stop losses in the copy and trade
Yeah.
in the chart, but then he goes and revenge trades on the copier.
Winning can be emotional as well. You should just
Yep.
put more trades on.
That's it.
I like to say as well, you know, when sometimes you'll say close, take profit, but it's closed now.
Yeah.
And you're nowhere near it.
Yeah.
So is he trading, I've asked you before, is he trading on Vantage or a different broker?
On Vantage, yeah.
So what, has he got different spreads or something then?
So it can be to do with spreads, or it can be to do with like, so like what I've seen on mine, because I called him out on this last week. There was a trade that he pulled in, and it was already like I was on the chart. I was placing trades on gold anyway. He was like, enter here at this, and I was like, it's 11 pips away. So what he does, and we got to the bottom of this eventually. So he's a zone-based trader. So based on, we'll use support and resistance as a very easy example on that. So he's waiting for trades to hit a certain place, to enter the market, to get out of a market. So what he does sometimes is he'll write up the entry, the stop loss, the take profit zones, and have them in a notes section, ready to copy and paste. So what ends up happening is he'll go in there, copy and paste, because the market's dropping, and it never gets there. So like he's predicting that it's going to hit that zone to enter the market, and it sometimes doesn't hit. Or it sometimes is flying to take profit, so by the time he's wrote take profit 1, close your trade here, take partials, yada, 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 it's nowhere near take profit. So this is one thing that we're getting to a point of doing is adding in that zone area. So it's like, might be a 20 pip stop, 20 pip entry area. So it might be from 31 to 33, enter between there. Yeah. And then from a take profit perspective, if you guys can take ownership of your own trades, for me, I don't ever aim for take profit 1, it's 30 pips. It's buttons when you get to a point of just doing it on a consistent basis. So for me, my take profit 1 is always 30, probably 40 to 50 pips. I then set a note on TradingView, which in fact I'll show you how to do it. Is anyone used to doing this? Has anyone done this before? No. Okay. Any danger in here or what?
You don't move it before that?
No. So if we delete all of this off of here, So if we knew, for example, right? So let's say, we're in buys from here. And let's say you take profits there, for example, and it's getting close. So let's say this point here was somewhere that I'd have interest in, because that's obviously a huge amount of pips, but you can put a note here, look. So now, go back to this. So let's say the trade's entered and you take profit zones there, right? So it's close to hitting, it's nowhere near hitting take profit 1, but it's moving in the right direction. You can right click on here and you can put alert somewhere. Might not do it while it's on weekend. Oh, is it because I'm in replay mode? Oh, alert there, sorry, you can't do it in replay mode. So you can, let's say the trade was there. So take profits here. So you can right click on this line, which you just put in here. This one here, horizontal ray. Right click on it, and you put add alert on horizontal ray. So you can put price, crossing, only once, so you want it to trigger once. And you put alert name, get ready to change stop loss. So then you can click on create. So what will happen is you download TradingView on your phone, and then when the trade hits that, you'll get a notification on your phone that says trade is almost, or 50 pips in, yada, 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 adjust stop loss to above entry. So I work everything based off of this.
And it'll just sync from...
Yeah. So all it'll do is it'll come over to your phone, phone's over there, so you'll just get a notification saying trades hit a certain area. So you can then come onto your phone and look and be like, yep, it's 50 pips in profit, take profit, it's going to be another 30 pips, yada, yada, yada. Adjust my stop loss to above entry by 20, 30 pips. So then that way then you can get used to doing that, and you can have, so like if this trade ends up doing what we want it to do, so when we're looking at this on the bigger time frame, so if this enters based where we said, let's say here, and then my take profit zones might be down there, I'll then put alerts, so when it hits here, boom. When it hits here, done. When it hits here, done. And all I'll do is I'll trade that down as it's falling. So for me personally, not necessarily closing partials, because I know that once I'm in a trade, I've already marked up where I want it to go. So then that way, then if I can put a trade on like this, for example, and the stop losses are there, but then my take profit zones are based on that. Okay. So like a lot of people are predicting gold to go to 2,400. So like that's just due to dollar strength since Trump's got involved. So if we know that that's potentially going to be the trade, all you're looking for there is like that's still 11 to 1. Fantastic trade, but that might take, if we look at how long this has taken to do, 14 days. So then what we can do here, and it didn't drop. There. So like sometimes the position of that last trade down is how these ones will be also. So when you get used to doing the back testing and stuff like that, if people ever wanted to do that, you'll get used to seeing the last significant moves are typically replicating each other. So if we look at from there to there, so you see, that move is pretty much exactly the same as there, identical. Yeah. So then you do, if you want to do it exactly the same again, you can do from here to here. So like it's weird because you get used to seeing the same things happen over and over again. bars pattern on the left here.
Bars pattern.
Yeah.
Which will be in the big.
And you just
Yeah.
click over it to copy it.
Yeah, so you select from where you want it to be. So for example, there to there, it'll mirror match every candle on there.
Pull it across.
Yeah. And that's where, like, for me, I don't like backtesting so much because anyone can show you data based off what's already happened. But again, you're not going to psychologically hold or wait April, May, June, July, August, September, because none of us would be here. We'd be off doing other things. You just started a drop shipping business. In my case, you see Pomeranians walking around on the boardwalk every now and again, and I want to start a Pomeranian business. That's exactly what I did. No, so basically, that's, so a bit like, basically, I like to, what I see makes sense, I like to make a business. So for example, now podcasts are flying, so it made sense to get a podcast studio in Marbella. So rather than just having one studio that made sense, we've renovated it all. We're going to have 3 different studios, a whiskey and cigar lounge on one side, on the roof terrace, and then a champagne bar, because I know that that will attract people. But then, when I moved to Marbella, I love Pomeranians, just to let you all know, right? Little, cute little dogs. Every other person had a Pom. So rather than just getting a Pomeranian, I created, I kind of want to show it. It was pretty sick, actually. Let me see if I can send this. This was, do you know when you have them late night thoughts that could turn into very good business ventures? This was it. Let me find this. It's in my favorites actually on here. I built this website. It's actually sick. So you click enter and it goes into the shop. And I got lost in this for about 3.5 months.
You know, James had a doggy clothing company.
Really?
Lost in about 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. So, like, literally, I don't know where even the topic of was going on that, to be fair. I can't remember what it was, but basically my brain got to a point where I started to see things that were going on, and trading has always been the one that stayed there, if that makes sense. So, like, I saw the podcast studio, got involved in that. I saw people with Pomeranians. I'm like, people are spending money on this. Like, because obviously in Marbella, they're a bit more liquid. So they're not buying a Temu t-shirt. They're going to Louis Vuitton and spending 800 quid on a dog collar. So I'm like, if I can brand that and I can start walking around, I must have, no word of a lie, that when we first met, I was walking down the beach and they were attractive females. She's like, this guy's a fucking weirdo. I'm walking up to girls like, oh, lovely dog. And she's like, this guy. But it was a business venture, I promise. All right, it might not have been at the beginning. But getting to a point with that where you can see things that work was my point of view. I don't want to end up going off track. That's where my brain goes sometimes. My apologies. But getting to a point with it where you can see the trades going in there, you can see a point where you can see that it works. So as long as you're doubling down on what you're doing, when you start to do the risk to reward stuff, you start to take the longer plays, you start to take the longer trades, you'll eventually get to a point with this where your own risk to reward can be utilized with ours. So you might look at the entry and think, yeah, that's a sick entry, but I don't like that stop loss. Yeah, exactly. And it is. I see it as well. And I'd rather people be honest, because for me, 80 pip stop loss when you're near a breaker structure, it doesn't make sense. But we have to do that from a signal perspective, because that's what it is, a signal group. If it was a full community where people were honed in every single day and they were in the mix all day, every day with it, it's a different ball game, because you can give precision entries with precision stop losses. But then what happens is when people don't respect that, they over leverage, because you guys are some of you over leveraging with a £500 account with an 80 pip stop loss. You would double down, triple down, quadruple down if I started showing you 11, 15, 18, 24 to 1s. Because you'd think, shit, like, I risked 10 quid, I'm at 240. So then by nature, your lot size will increase, but that should happen. your lot size should increase based on a short stop loss. But what happens is people don't do that at the same time. They'll quadruple, 5x, 6x their lot sizes with the same account sizes. So as you go through this, the emotional triggers and everything like that you have, like for me, I get emotionally triggered by like the trade going into red. It's the first thing. And it happens when you press buy or sell regardless. So my head's gone. Straight away. 14 pips down, I'm like, man. And this is why I say to you, I'm not trading as much as I used to do. I used to probably trade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 trades a day. Because I would sit at the computer listening to lo-fi music with my headphones on, like 1 minute time frame, waiting for a break of structure to happen and support and resistance. And I'd wonder why I was tired all the time, I was knackered, like I was a house hermit pretty much for like 7 or 8 months, which don't get me wrong, after I'd quit my job, that was fine, but not going to your job was another issue. So when you accept uncertainty in trading, the market is very unpredictable and you remain consistent in what you do. Practice patience, which a lot of us struggle with, especially because the way that this is teaching us to be is a microwave mindset. We've all got that home run that we want to hit. We've all got the point where we want to make shitloads of money. We've all got to the point where we want that 1 minute ding to happen and your account's gone from X to Y. So with this, if you can build that patience, and that's where the higher time frame bias is coming. So what we're going to start doing, and you won't mind me sharing this, but we do have like, in this last month, we've probably had like 48 trades that we could have sent out in the morning. But the problem with them was some of them are higher time frame, some of them are lower time frame. So what ends up happening is some of them go against each other. So you're in buys, but you're in sells. So on the smaller time frame, it is a sell, but on the higher time frame, we're still in buys. So putting that out to a community of people who don't yet have the right information, it's not right to do, because you will end up in a position where you've got 20 buys on, 20 sells on, and you haven't got a clue what's going on. So that's where now, if we can do the boot camp and get everything into a position where you guys understand it, and then when we do put buy positions out, you're like, I see that now. Now we put seller position on, you're like, right, I understand why that is, because that might only be a 50 pip take profit. This one is a 600 pip move. But they've got to have the higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, so on and so on. So when you do that, you're then focusing on the progress, not perfection, because you can't have a 100% success rate. If you could, we'll all be on jets in the next 6 months, then yachts the following month, and so on and so on. But it doesn't happen. Like banks don't have that. They have to cut losses at some point as well. So when we look at the trading mindset and the 1%, this is where 99% of traders are. They're lazy, impatient, they're greedy, they're fearful, and they're insecure. A lot of this ticks a lot of traders' boxes, and you might not be that as a person. You might not be greedy. You might not be lazy. You might not be fearful. You might not be as an insecure person, but the moment that you press the buy or sell button, you kind of become that version for a very short period of time, get out the trade, and you're back to your normal self again. But it's almost like the cloud comes over you a little bit when you place that trade, and you're just walking around like this. Like MetaTraders popping off, like you're like, oh my God, I'm £14 down, £13 down. And you just get to a point where you're so in the zone with it that is you. But where the true 1% comes in is patience, confident, resilient. Like them there, that's just you being a good person in general, regardless of trading. So when you come to protecting your capital, this is the biggest part of it. Protecting your mindset as well and how you think. Because if you cut off people who are literally bad energy, who's ever sat with someone for a coffee and you can tell straight away that if you become friends with this person, you are going nowhere in life, right? You can tell by their energy. And if we understand that we're energetical beings, we all vibrate on a certain frequency, how we are as human beings is what we attract. So then when your network and people around you, that's when you start to look and go, man, I must have been a certain type of way for a certain period of time. Because then people, they become you. Like they always say, your vibe attracts your tribe. So look around you in your network right now. Who's around you? Is it people building? Is it people learning, growing? Or is it people talking about people? My network was people talking about people who went to the pub every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and they were making no moves. And it's not always about money. Like for me, like when you look at the definition of success, it's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So when you look at that, if you set out to be a shopkeeper, and that's what you're doing right now, you're a success. If you set out to be a mum, and you're a mum right now or a dad, you're successful. If you set out to be a videographer, you're successful. If you set out to be someone who's presenting, you're a success. It doesn't always determine money. So then when I started to understand that, I'm like, right, okay, what am I working towards? What are my goals? Because it's not just about money. And that's where it goes into the stuff to do with this, the gambling, the protecting your capital, risk management. Because if we look at what the silent killer of trading is, what do you guys think it is? Greed, discipline, it's fear. And most people don't like to admit that they're scared of something, they're fearful of something. Because as human beings, the ego's kicking. Well, I'm not scared of anything. Like we was having this conversation the other night. Like snakes, spiders, anything like that, I'm okay with. If you was to tell me that to survive, I had to go through an underground rock that had this much space, and if I breathe wrong, I'm dead. Like them guys who cave dive, whatever they do. They're weirdos, in my opinion. Right? Man, and what happens is, I put a bit of time into watching it, and I'm like, palms are sweating, I'm like, man, this guy's gonna die. Guess what shows up more on your feed? More of it. So I end up shitting my pants all day. So if you look at what you're fearful of, it might not necessarily be the money. It might not necessarily be that. It might be, if you're quite a proud person who's never used to being wrong, so then when we start hitting stop losses, and when you start losing a little bit, yeah, your ego gets hit, your personality gets hit, all of that starts to take a hit. So the fear side of it is that. It's not the losing of the trade. It's not the losing of money. So for me personally, I would take some time when you go away from this to write down like who you are as a person. If someone was to say your name around your network, what would be the top 10 things that they would say about you? Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'm not wrong. But
You're not supposed to be great.
well, you are though. You are. That's a good trait. Like if you're batshit crazy and like a full-on weirdo, then might be a different story. But like you have to identify who you are, what you're about. So then if you can put all of that into a compiled thing, and you start to realize like, right, these are the areas that I struggle with. These are the things that I'm not good at. Like I struggled when I left Organo and I joined IM Academy. So I was with IM Academy for 4 years. With Organo, I was the guy, I was the person on stage, I was talking in front of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. I loved it. People were fucking getting my autograph at events. It was weird at the same time. I came into IM, no one knew me. Ego kicked in, hey there. I'm like, I'm walking around in a nice new suit. I'm like, hi guys. No one knows me. But I was like, oh, see? See? It's what used to happen in events. That's why I went to a B for chasing friends. So then, these are the biggest things. Fear of losing money, fear of missing out, and fear of being wrong. They're the three biggest things that typically blow people's accounts when it comes to trading. So what I want you to do with this, before we go into this next bit, if you've got pen and paper or you've got notes on your phone, I would always say scribe it. Pen and paper's better. But write down what your biggest reason, like why have you driven in the snow to get here? Like what's the reason that you're doing this for? Like, and again, I'm going to pick on, there'll be people who don't want to write this. Like it's like, I'm not getting a pen and paper out. I'm not writing my reason why. It sounds weird because most people won't do it. And that's why when you look at, when I used to go to events, I would see how the top income earners were making the most money. They dressed different. They smiled different. They smelled a little bit different. Their character and how they presented themselves were a tiny little bit different. So if you can get to a position where you act like the version of you that you want to become, you'll automatically get there. Whether it takes a week, a month, a year, 6 years, however long it takes, you'll eventually get there. It's like someone said to me earlier on, like, have you bought the Lambo yet? Like, income-wise, it's there. But I don't want to put 230k down on my dream car when I've got other things that need plate spinning right now. So when you look at the stuff there, that was the stuff that had missed me out. I used to have FOMO. Some of my closest network right now, they're driving the cars. We started at the same time. They started after me. So my brain's telling me like, oh, well, what have I done wrong? Why have they got the results that I haven't? All the stuff then starts to question. So when I looked at my result, everything was car-based, watch-based, yachts, this, that. But it wasn't actually until I started to dig into what it actually was that made me tick on what I was doing. So having the emotional feeling of being able to go to my mum and be like, right, mortgage is done. Like my mum's, like, I used to live next, for those who don't know, I used to live next door to my mum. My mum wasn't well for 4 or 5 years. I purposely lived there so that then if she needed anything, I was there. If she needs, like for example, if she needs treatments for doing things, the money's there. We're not going through the NHS, you're going private. So that for me, when I have a shit day, nothing can beat that. So when people say, Bradley, why are you going to bed so late? Why are you up so early? Why are you working all the time? That. It's not to have a nice watch and a nice car. That makes me feel good. That makes other people think that I'm important. When in actual fact, that's what makes me tick, is the top thing. Also, my granddad passed away from Alzheimer's dementia. So I eventually want to build a care home. My goal for building the podcast studio is exactly this. I can have sponsorship payments that go in there every single month that cover enough for nurses to be inside my care home, and then no money comes out of anywhere else. It's paid for by sponsorships. I let them know that that's what it's going towards. They get promotion, they get business, and there will be a dog sanctuary on here as well. Because people with Alzheimer's dementia, they resonate heavily with dogs, right? So if people understand that that's what you're going towards, yes, a nice watch looks good. Yes, the car that you're pulling looks great. But it's the other things, like when you go to, you've all been to them manor houses, right? Where there's Big John on wall. And you're like, what did he do? Like he was the one who like shifted the legacy of his family a little bit. And that's why the house was built. That's why the other things was, I'm not saying I want to be on all my like future generations' walls, but I want to do enough in this lifetime so that then I can have a greater impact. So mortgage, that's obviously my mum and nana, mum and dad, sorry. Building the care home and create an amount of assets so that my children never need to call anyone a boss.